Welcome to the big interview. I'm Graham Hunter. Firstly, I hope you're all doing as well as can be possibly imagined in these really strange and testing circumstances. This is our first ever remotely recorded episode. No face-to-face during detention. It's Jimmy Bullard coming up now. We asked Mr. Bullard to exit his garden where he was doing some beautiful work and very detailed work too, for a specific reason. I've always loved the way that Jimmy loved football. He oozes an infectious adoration of this beautiful game, and he played it really well. We first met 8 years ago after a Classico and burst into a kind of impromptu a cappella karaoke across a hotel bar. That was fun, certainly for us. I'm not saying anything about the audience. Jimmy's skill on the ball at Soccer AM, honestly, is priceless to watch. He looks almost more in command of the tricks that he can produce now than he was as a professional footballer for, West Ham, Peterborough, Wigan, Hull, Fulham, Ipswich. This was a guy who, in my opinion, was destined for higher things. I think Jimmy really was a good footballer, but by the end he said he felt like his physique was made of glass. Things didn't happen quite as much for this really talented entertainer as they should have done. You'll hear about how during his Premier League career he was watching Spanish football and taking ideas and role models from La Liga into his game, to his benefit. And Jimmy is one of those big interview guests who experienced real life, as we call it, before making the breakthrough into pro football. It's a vital part of who he was as a player and who he is as a man. Like Chris Waddle, so early in the series of these big interview podcasts, he worked hard for the money, as the song goes, before football liberated him. The one area of his career that we did stop off on to luxuriate in were those early days after West Ham plucked him out of non-league football, and he went from painting and decorating to going to work at his beloved boyhood club alongside one player who had a huge impact on him and who you'll hear about a lot. Paolo Di Canio is coming. Finally, because we recorded this remotely, the first time in 97 interviews I haven't been in the same room as our guest, the sound quality occasionally is not quite what you're used to. We'll be doing more of these kinds of interviews to keep you entertained and interested during the lockdown, and we're working out how to get the very best sound quality that's possible. But in the meantime, please hang in there and forgive us just the occasional sound glitch. It's worth it, I promise. There's far, far more to Jimmy Bullard than the clever, witty, cheeky persona that works so well for him on television. This is a man who understands football, adores football at least as much as I do, and knows how to communicate that. You're going to enjoy Jimmy Bullard on The Big Interview. To all the loyal fans of The Big Interview who've cumulatively given us 14.5 million listens since we started, this is the big one. This is the one that we've been wrangling with lawyers to bring to you. It is, as you can all see, if this is only audio, let me describe the fact that Jimmy, or Don Jimmy Bullard, is sitting in the Marlon Brando set from The Godfather, looking as if I'd gone to him on the day of his daughter's wedding to ask a favour, but not called him Godfather. Jimmy Bullard, I bet you right now there's two things in your mind, like, what the fuck am I doing here and why am I in the garden? Have I correctly summarised what's going on in your head right now?
Yeah, as I said to you, Greg, I've just got into my landscaping massively. So, been gardening during this lockdown. It's been hard for all of us. But yeah, I've had to find a goal, basically. I've had to find a goal. I've had to find something that really grabs hold of me. Otherwise, I think boredom would have kicked in, and landscaping's really helped me out. So.
But throughout your magical life, you've known that you need to find something that occupies your mind, but also that sets alight your competitive spirit, whether it's competing in a sport or competing with yourself. I think you're a guy who, like, you've famously said a lot that you don't like to be alone too much. But
I've always really liked, there's so many things I'm going to tell you, and I'm not fucking about in this podcast, because when I tell you something, it isn't me arsing around or looking for a response or making a laugh. It's the truth. There's so many things that I adore you for, but one of the things I've really picked up on is across your life, you've developed a huge amount of self-knowledge. And you just said there that in lockdown, in detention, as you and I both probably suffered at school, you've had to find something to do. So you've turned to nature and your garden. That's one of the things that can occupy your talents in your brain.
Yeah, 100. Always. When you said it like that, I think I just naturally done that. Do you get what I mean? I didn't purposely think when I was a kid I had to keep busy. I just think naturally my brain, you know, golf. Two hobbies I've had before this lockdown was golf and fishing that have kept me so on the straight and narrow. It's been so good for my health, mentally, physically, during my football career. But even afterwards, when I finished, you know, I turned to them, and I've just realised how much during this lockdown I turned to my hobbies and I relied on them, to be honest with you, Gray. Without golf and fishing in my life, I know it's going on a bit of a weird tangent here, but honestly, that has saved me so much. I just think it's keep my mind occupied in a space what really drives me, because I've got fishing magazines around the side of my bed. I'm not joking. They're as high as my mattress, and I turn to them. It's all about the golf swing. It's all about golf. It's all about equipment, and the other side is fishing. I've learned so much. I've not had one lesson on golf. I've had pointers, but I think I can count on one hand how many lessons I've paid for. So I've had a lesson, but I'll be honest with you, from the lessons, I've took more out of myself from self-learning the game than anyone that's given me. Because I honestly believe with golf, and that's almost with football as well, I can go into football there. I was so self-taught. Almost every team I went with, Ray, managers would say, just play, Jim. Just play how you want to play. I was a bit of a free spirit, if you want. And a lot of managers used to say that to me. And the same with fishing. I've learned my own way. And I think you learn quicker. If you learn your own way, I think you learn quicker, you know. There's obviously boundaries with everything. But I think once you learn your own way, you learn quicker. And that's what I found.
But does it identify something about your mind that you've got a mind that could not only soak up a lot of detail, but is hungry for more detail? And I don't think it's only about self-betterment. You've got a massive amount of curiosity about, right, well, if that, then this. And we're going to talk about getting down, not now, we're going to talk about YouTube and rabbit holes there. You've got a mind that says to you, Jimmy, give me more. I'm not at capacity yet.
You said one word there, Gray, that's me, and that's detail. That all through my life, I look at I'm massive on interior design and landscape, as I just talked about. Detail in that, from lighting, from the way you've sculpted, from the way your garden changes during the whole day, depending where the sun is ridiculous. Detail in a golf swing, detail in fishing, detail in angling. I've got floats here, and I wish this is a visual, right? The detail in these floats to use to anglers, not non-anglers out there, and some of you, this might not be a visual, but there's so much detail involved in this. I look really deep in detail in everything I've done, like the way I control the ball. We were speaking about it the other day, like people controlling the ball, and we'll get onto it later about the top players, the way they played this. But I remember managers saying to me in the UK, control the inside of your left, pass with the inside of your right. I was like, I want to learn how to control the ball with the outside. I want to learn how to control the ball with my studs. I want to learn how to control the ball with one stud, because in an instance I might need that tiny detail will get me out of trouble. And golf and fishing, Gray, that's why I think I've been grabbed by them two. Is the detail in them two sports is ridiculous. We talk about Tiger Woods, one of the best in the world. I'm going to bring a lot of names up in this chat, right? Because I've always looked at the very best, whatever sport I've got into, I've looked at the very best, because the very best are detailed in what they do. And the way Tiger Woods talks about chipping, if you was to get the best out of every sport, and the way, if you broke them down, I promise you, and I think we all know, they're so detailed in every little aspect. That's what's got them there, because of the detail. And he's talking, I see this thing online about Tiger Woods talking about chipping. He hasn't got one shot. He sees a shot and he's got 100 ways to play it. He has to pick one of them 100 ways to play that exact shot, you know. So the detail in it is phenomenal. And that's what grabs me, the detail in everything.
And that's what accounts for, like, if we just, you dropped in Tiger there. Now, I interviewed him a couple of times, but only post-round, never one-on-one. And I'm putting myself down here because it's the truth. I'm a chippy, aggressive Scot. And I didn't like his manner. And I didn't like how he shat on the media. In his pomp, he was like, yeah, you're all just scumming. So it took me, which is stupid, particularly talking to a man like you, too long to like him. I could appreciate him, but to like him, that was a hard thing. And you and I were talking the other day about maybe the moment that brought me around is at the 16th at Augusta, which is a little chip, which is, for anybody who hasn't seen it, maybe you best describe it. But you and I both came to the same conclusion that long before any of us knew it was going on, he knew that. You remember that, Chip, and we spoke about it the other day, no?
Amazing, yeah. But before he's walking up to that green, let's dissect that there. That moment now, which is huge in golf history, but that moment there with Tiger Woods, he would have seen that shot as he's walking up to that green. As he's walking up that green, he's thinking about that shot. As he's stepping over his ball, he's got 100 shots in his head. How do I play this? Do I play it a bit of cut? Do I play it a check? Do I overspin it? Do I play it de-lofted? Do I play a 7-iron? Do I play a... So it's all going through his head, and the feeling, and all of a sudden he has to dissect it. He picks a shot, and then he executes it. The execution is the last bit, the nail in the coffin, the icing on the cake. But the moments before that is his grab. That's his buzz. Do you get what I mean? Like, the moments before that ball comes to me, how am I going to mug this midfielder? Not only am I thinking that, I'm thinking, how can I entertain? Great. I not only wanted to control with a side foot, I wanted to mug him that bad where I get the crowd up on their feet and giving me a stand ovation. That was my attention to detail. I was a bit of an attention seeker as well. I was a big attention seeker. I didn't want to just control the ball with my side foot, pass it and get it down the side. I wanted to mug him. I wanted to do something special on the other occasion. You know, I wanted to, like, entertain. So that whole thing, the whole process of choosing what I'm going to do in that moment is my buzz.
But in order to do that at the height of your professional career, how far ahead in milliseconds or seconds could you see the picture? You know, when you're weighing up the 100 things, just like Tiger's 100 chips, when you're weighing up the 100 things you can do, how far ahead are you seeing it?
That there, right? It's mad, right? You're asking me all the crunch questions that I think the elite sportsman, and I'm not classing myself as elite as them, but I was in the Premier League, and I noticed one thing: my thought process. The more elite I play, the more thoughts come in like seconds. I believe the very best. The Lionel Messis, the Maradonas, the Riquelmes, the Zidanes, Ronaldos, I believe they think so much quicker in the amount of seconds than the norm. I believe that's why they give themselves more time. You know, we all talk about time equals space equals quality. That ain't only in actions, that's in thought process. I think they think so quickly that it gives their actions a lot more time as well. I honestly believe that. And the same as Tiger Woods, I believe in that moment of him swinging, he can just change it fractionally, that can manipulate the golf head onto the golf ball and then execute. You know, I believe the best think so much quicker than the norm. I really do. But me, it's a difficult question to answer because when I was at my elite, I've come back from the England squad. When I finally got in the England squad, right, my thought process, I went back to Fulham. No disrespect to Fulham. Well, it is disrespect. It was like going back 5 years when I was playing at Peterborough. I was playing with the best, the Gerrards, Lampards, Rios, Beckham, Rooneys. My 2 weeks with them, I was the best I ever was. Best.
All right. On that point, because I've been saying, start this conversation up, that I view you as having a huge sponge and a massive thirst to better yourself or to challenge yourself or to learn what. If you'd spent, just say breaks had gone your way age 10 and physically you were a different animal and you've been taken into a nursery side that led to a pro side. And let's say you'd been attached to Premier League Fulham or Premier League West Ham from 12, 13, and you'd been with elite kids pushing yourself all the time from 10, 11, 12, 13. Wouldn't you have ended up I'm proposing to you because it's what I think, because I think you're a chameleon. The better company you're in, probably the better you're going to be. Wouldn't you have ended up consistently at a higher level and a better footballer throughout your career?
Another great question. There's two sides I look at this. Yes, because you're a better elite company at an early stage, so you're learning quicker at an early stage. I get the process, but there was one thing that gives me hunger, and that was I knew the outside world, and I was a painter and decorator for 5 years and builder. And that was a scare tactic for me. So I never wanted to go back. I knew. So let's go on your way. If I was 12, 13 years of age, I never got the scare tactic. I don't know the real world. I don't know how hard it is to earn £60 a day, right? I don't know how hard it is to really live in the real world out there. All I knew was football, being that 12-year-old and playing with elite players. But how I started was in the building game, and then to have this magic playing football, wow, that gave me my buzz, that gave me my drive, and that gave me the scare tactic to go, I don't want to go back to the real world. I call it the real world, and football, really, that real world scared the life out of me. I had this like dream, I'm going to cherish this. That gave me my hunger. So you've got two sides to life, I think. I think you've got all the elite training and with the elite players making yourself better as an athlete, but there's one thing that I learned in my career is having a hunger to stay there and to get better. And that's what the real world did me. I was scared to going back to that.
But your parents, I think noticeably your dad wanted that for you, wanted to challenge you and push you when you're young, because you tell a story about the chip shop and peeling spuds. And for me, it's the context. Fucking peeling spuds for 5 hours on a Saturday night.
My dad used to drop me off, right? He used to drop me off. And I think that was him. Well, I know that was him sort of showing me the real world, you know. And to be fair, because it's a Saturday, we used to tee off at 12 o'clock. So I used to play my games on Saturday, and then I used to go to work afterwards and peel chips in the back. And it was out in the back, and we had like a chipper. And that's all he trusted me with, to be fair, the governor of the chip shop. But that was probably, along with decorating, that was probably one of my first trades, a chip peel or whatever you call them, yeah. And that was sort of like a scare tactic from my dad, I think. I think he put me there and, do you really want to be doing that for the rest of your life, son? You know, and he'd put me in moments where he knew I would struggle with, to make me realise, you've got football here, son. Concentrate on your football, because, you know, that would be a lot better, like, you know, give me my drive, really.
Can I explain why I asked that thing about if you'd grown up in an elite club atmosphere and been challenged that way? Because you said something once that I loved, and you've said it to me on the phone, but you've written about it too. You believed mentally that if you watched Zidane, and even if you changed your gear a little bit to be like Zidane, it actually benefited you. Now, I love that. One, because every aspiring kid, boy or girl, who doesn't make it, kind of thinks like that anyway. But the power of the mind, I think, probably means that you were right when you did your boots. Maybe not when you did the shorts too tight, but when you did your boots like Zidane and you thought it was helping, I reckon it probably was. It's a confidence sport.
Yeah, that comes again from detail, right? I used to look at Zidane. I used to adore the man so much. As you said, I used to wear my boots like him, Adidas Predators, right? The way he used to flap his tongue over. It's a little detail. He didn't used to have the big tongues like Beckham. He used to have them up quite high. He didn't used to like a lot of flapping around. He used to have tight shorts, because basically he is a big man. But I used to think, if I could dress like him, near enough feel like him, then I started taking on the persona of controlling a ball like him. Was it anything like him? Probably not. But I used to feel like I was him, like, and it used to relax me. And you know the way he used to carry himself and control the ball? And it used to like just soak it in, it just like absorb it. And this was me in the Premier League, by the way, Greg. This wasn't me at 17. This was me playing for Wigan. Players didn't really see what I was doing, but I honestly tell you, I used to portray him, because I used to go, he's the best in the world. Why not? Why can't I not try and be him?
Brilliant.
Even if I get to 10% of him, I've done a good job. But there was one moment where the shorts so fucking tight, I couldn't lift my leg up and I missed the open goal. Paul John looked at me and thought...
Jimmy, trial and error. Zidane must have made a mistake or two in his...
I just saw so fucking tight. I couldn't lift my left leg up. It come over Gary Till. Scotsman's gone down the right wing, flying down the right wing as he does. I'm galloping on the left back, thinking I'm Zidane. The ball comes over, bounces off the slicky pitch. I picked my left foot up. I was hopeless with my left peg. And I've just picked it up. But my shorts were so tight, I couldn't put my groin up as high. And it's just bounced over my foot. And I've looked. No one knew in the moment, obviously. It looked like I just missed it. And I thought to myself, these shorts are too bloody tight. It's getting ridiculous. Oh,
I hope you had the bollocks to turn to Gary and go, Gary, here, mate, here, not there, here.
But it wasn't even that high grade. It wasn't even like outrageously high. It was just because of the shorts were too tight. Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? If only they knew now, Paul Gill, mate, he'd have gone absolutely.
All right, foot on the ball, as we like to say, Jimmy, because that's an intro to something that you and I both love. But how superb was Zidane a 21st century portrait? Because you can explain to those who haven't seen the film what it feels like and why two people in that film caught your love.
Well, any football fan that loves football out there, just football in general, you don't have to be a Zidane fan. The way this and a film fan, because of the detail and the sound, and the way this is shot is by far, I think, the best football film I've ever seen. I just think it's so class. 21st century, it's his own film. Basically, they follow Zidane for a whole game, through him coming out of tunnel, I believe, to the end. I'm not sure how it ends, but I believe him coming out of tunnel. And there's a few things that I noticed through this film. If you ain't watched it out there, just go and watch it. It's beautiful, bro, isn't it? It's absolutely mind-blowing.
You've said it, because the number of cameras, and it's set up by a Scottish guy with a French-Algerian cameraman, and this Scottish guy has got artistic ideas and he loves football. But I don't think any football game has had as many artistic cameras placed on one guy ever. And it's Zidane. I'll set it up because I don't know if you remember the year. It's April 2005. It's at the Bernabeu. And it's against that iconic yellow submarine team.
Yeah, Villarreal.
And that's why it's a double for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it played against Villarreal. It's a Zidane film, and you see Zidane moving around, and the way the cameras go on to him, I do not know. And I always remember Zidane. The amount Zidane sweated was unbelievable. It was like a permanent tap coming off of his chin. I used to love that. And this is before he's even started the game. He used to sweat unbelievable amounts. And he was the captain of that team. A few things I noticed, and I'm going to get onto the other player in a minute, was he wore the armband. How much he didn't talk, because he didn't need to. His actions would be enough. His movement on the ball, great, because where it goes so close in is absolutely phenomenal. Real Madrid don't have the best game in that, and nor does Zidane. This is where this other player comes in. It's so hard for me because it's 21st century, it's all about Zidane. But if you go back on YouTube and watch the actual game, Villarreal absolutely run the show with a player called Riquelme, Román Riquelme. Now, this boy has the game of his life during this film that's being made about Zidane. And if you watch the amount of Real Madrid players trying to hack Riquelme, he comes out with some ability in his... What isn't shown... It isn't shown in this DVD, but as a football fan, I went on to try and find this game to see how real it was. The game by Riquelme, that there, I was a bit of a Riquelme fan anyway, but that there took me on to being a full-blast Riquelme fan, and then I started to train Riquelme, and this is where my Riquelme run starts. But I love that player. I think that player... underachieved's a bit harsh because he done some amazing things, but I think he could have gone on to be one of the best ever. Like he's phenomenal. But that was that sort of DVD. It's amazing, really.
We've got a lot of listeners to this podcast who are football addicts like you and me, football lovers like you and me, and therefore some of them will know about Román Riquelme, but not everybody will have seen him, Jim. So if I was to say to you that Zidane and Riquelme occupied the same planet because in their way, they were genius footballers. But to my eye, Riquelme was really different to Zidane in that he's built a little bit like you. You'd be a little bit taller than Riquelme, but he's quite a slight man. By no means is he fast, but he's like got something determinedly Argentinian about him. It's like to everybody around, it's like, it's this pace, it's my fucking ball. You do your little bits running around and I will feed you and I'll feed you and I'll feed you. Stop now, turn, rewind, stop, pause for a second, drag them around, boom, there you go again. If there's a free kick, which in your case we're going to come on to in a little while. Whereas Zidane, like you said, I think a lot of people forget he was a fucking beast. As well as being beautiful and across short bits of ground, he was much quicker than Riquelme and he could move as if the ball wasn't there. But he could impose himself physically. And if you watch, it's like with Ronaldinho, if you challenged up near him, you'd bounce off him, which is not the case with Riquelme. So they had to approach space and marking and time of release of the ball completely differently, the two of them. But they equally fascinated you.
Your detail there, Gray, is exactly how I see it, right? Everything you said there is absolutely bang on, right? You know your shit, obviously. But there were glimpses, because I was built like Riquelme, I started to understand this. I could control the ball like Zidane, but guess what? There's another player trying to get it off of me. That's a different matter. Zidane, as you say, is a beast, 6'2", whatever he is, legs like tree trunks. He could put a leg there and stop him. I couldn't do that. Riquelme can't do that. What I found, you watch Riquelme very closely. He uses his backside. He uses his whole body. He backs into players. I've never seen a centre midfielder do it. He's got his little arch back, he's got shoulders, and he sort of uses his whole body and his arms. Great. The amount of time he uses his forearm and hurts people is phenomenal. When I see his stature, I thought there's nothing of this man. How is he ragdolling people? He's using his whole body. Zidane used a limb. It's enough for Zidane to put a leg there and go, stop, and I'll stop that. If I'd done that, I'd be injured. I couldn't play like that. Riquelme, I could play like. He'd get his whole body there. He is one of the best. I think I said this here the other day, Greg. Two different players, really, and they see it different. They had to play different, and I believe it come down to stature. As you say, no pace for Riquelme, but I'm telling you what he had, Greg. His manipulation of the football in tight areas was better than Zidane's in tight areas. And this is how I broke it down. Zidane gliding with a football, wow. I see him tear off, and I think he got Zidane. You don't see him as a pacey sort of player, but Zidane had pace, what you say. When he got galloping, mate, he was a charger. No one's stopping him. Riquelme wasn't that. He was like slow, quick, slow. He would sort of slow the whole game down, as you said the other day to me, Ray, dictate at Riquelme's pace. If Riquelme is in a team that wasn't at Riquelme's pace, don't play him. The way he controls the football and the way he absorbs it and his vision is just phenomenal to watch. It's just like an absolute eye-opener.
There's a way to prove what you've said there, because the first person I ever heard of who'd made it at the top level, Premier League level, but who wasn't as good a footballer as you, but felt like you do, was Paul Telfer. And I knew the guy who represented Paul. I didn't meet Paul, but the guy who looked after him would say, Paul doesn't really, now this is not you, Paul doesn't really even like football much. He don't watch it. He wished he'd been a professional golfer, but he could play football. He could earn a brilliant living, be an international, probably made that cup final under Gordon second, blah, blah, blah. Subsequently, I've got much friendlier with a guy I used to watch, Steve Archibald, who's Aberdeen, Spurs, Barcelona, Hibs, East Fife, and Steve lives over here now, and we've got really close friends. I work with him on the TV, and he'll come in and he's like, I didn't watch the football on the weekend. I don't like to watch football. But if you ask him about, you show him a clip and say, what should the striker have done? What should the keeper have done? How was the cross? How was that release pattern? His analysis. And when you're co-commentating at a live game, and he says, this will happen, that should happen, that change is important now. It's breathtaking, but he doesn't watch football. Now, the people you've just been talking about and the era of Spanish football we've just been talking about, that was enough to get you starting watching more football than you used to, because habitually, you're not a great guy for watching tons and tons of football, are you?
I'll tell you what, it all happened with Sunday. Do you remember, it happened around the time with Galactico, when they all come together, all them big players, like we've touched on, Zidane, Beckham, Roberto Carlos, all them players. Don't get me wrong, I watched football, I watched UK football, I watched bits of Premier League, but it didn't give me my buzz. It didn't give me what I was hoping at the game. You got to remember, I was playing in it as well, so it was a bit of a weird time. It was like, I would watch it more to the point if I was coming up against the likes of Steven Gerrard at the weekend. I'd watch it for that. It wasn't for my being a fan. It wasn't for my love of football in general. I'd watch the UK football. It's weird because I didn't get the buzz out of that. I used to get the buzz out of watching Liga so much more. And it's hard to put my finger on why, but I think it is the styles. I think it is. I didn't see a lot back then. I never played in a team, played possession-based football. And back then, Premier League wasn't very possession-based.
No.
You know, Spanish football was so possession-based. And that's what sort of, that was my appeal. I spoke to you before, Gray. The amount of arguments I had with managers because I wanted to play possession-based football, and we just wasn't really built that way. We didn't really know the possession-based game over here.
But let me, for the benefit of those listening, Jimmy, and slap me down if I'm wrong, nobody should interpret that you saw Liga football and then said to managers, well, we've got to be possession-based. As I understand it from previous chats, you'd always seen it that way, and seeing La Liga was just a reaffirmation of what you'd always believed. Is that true? Spot
on, exactly right. As a kid, that didn't just start in the Premier League, them arguments. As a kid, I always wanted to... I couldn't figure out why is the keeper not making an angle for the centre half? Why is the centre half just clipping it down the line? Why are we taught? Because I was taught, playing their final third. We don't want to play in the two thirds. We don't want to play in our defensive third or the middle third. Get it up to there, get it in a danger area and play from there. Then all of a sudden I'm thinking, no, what about these two thirds? That's totally killed me, if you want. That's totally like... got rid of all my space, all my what I believe in. So my pet hates were goalkeepers, centre half, because they were my back line. They were the boys that I wanted them to make angles and let me receive the ball off of them. It was very much clip it forward, then we go and play an air half, Jim, all the way up until I was 27, 28, until managers started to believe in me. But to answer your question, I see that more and more when I started to watch La Liga football. A little bit of Bundesliga, to be honest, a little bit, but not so much as Spanish football, like when Barca was playing and Madrid and just the league in general was so much more, like you'd go and watch Villarreal v Bilbao, and it was so much, everyone wanted the ball, Gray. Everyone wanted the ball from centre-half to goalkeeper, and people go to me, well, it ain't just that. I'll tell you what, it's a big patch of it. If you want the ball more, I'm a big fan of John Stones on here in England. Like, his hunger for the ball, he's waving his hands in the air, give me the ball. Like, that for me is huge if you want to play possession-based football. I had centre-halves, Gray, behind me that couldn't wait to squeeze up the pitch. Pep Guardiola's fault is totally different. Make the pitch bigger. Allow Jimmy to come and get the ball. Allow the Xavis of the world to come and get the ball. You know, I put myself in Xavi's bracket there because I believe
he does that when I speak to him. When I speak to him, he does that too. So let's not fuck about here.
Good man.
Xavi just sometimes he just says JV. He doesn't say JV. He just goes, and he's really in the middle of a point like this, and you go, and you know, JV used to, and I'm like, I know what you mean, mate.
Great, I'd love it if you could get him on voice recorder doing that.
Oh, no problem.
From a kid, I always see it that way. I always see it the Pep way, if you want. But what Pep has brought to UK football, I'm telling us now, UK fans, we do not realise how much we high regard him, times it by 100. Times it by 100, because what he's done to the game, not just Pep, Klopp as well, but Pep was the one that really educated the Man City fans and the UK fans, because I believe we've got to educate the fans before anyone else, because the amount of times that I was playing football and I would play with a right winger and our fans would clap because he's running 100 mile an hour up the line, that ain't football, great. It ain't the rugby mentality, mate. You've got to go forward with quality. You can't just run forward at pace like a lunatic.
So there's got to be a purpose, right? So there's got to be an intelligent purpose. So the first thing, these are bandied about phrases, you might know it, but Cruyff's second in command when he took over as a coach at the Camp Nou was a winger called Charlie Rexach. And Charlie and he had played together in that team when he moved to Spain, and Franco, the dictator, was still in charge. And, you know, he won one league, and he was regarded as like Rudolf Nureyev of the football pitch, because it was beautiful to watch him. Like maybe you felt about George Best because Best was a beautiful man. His movement was beautiful.
What was Cruyff? Let me ask you a question, Greg. What was Cruyff like when he first come over and he implemented that possession-based game? What was that like?
There's two ways to answer that, because as a player, he was no more than a brilliant leader player who said, like, on the pitch, we'll do this. But when he was finished, he went home. So he revolutionized the idea of what Barcelona and the Camp Nou could believe in, because they were in times of a dictatorship. And for example, he wasn't allowed by the local registrar to call his son Jordi, because Jordi was a Catalan name, and General Franco, the dictator who was still alive in them days, went, no, fuck you, no Catalan name. But as he comes back in 88, 89, what he did was he went, I'm only taking over, never mind the money or the bigger club, it'll be my way. And his first thing he did was he went and bought Basque players from the North region who were tough, who ran Begiristain, for example. There were more, but he went, in the short term, before I change, and including the fans, and that was the point I was about to make about Rexach, he changed the mind of the president. He changed the mind of the players. He gradually bought players, not immediately. He went, I've got to win to stay in a job. So at that stage, he'd had 2-3 years of coaching at Ajax. And he wasn't the man that we think of now. Just like Pep said when he took over at Barcelona, if I lose, never mind I'm Pep Guardiola, they'll fucking sack me. Cruyff knew that too in 88, 89. And because he bought these Basque players, Salinas and Begiristain and eventually Zubizarreta in goals, they were tough, they were competitive. If you remember, they won the Cup. They won the Cup Winners' Cup against Sampdoria 2 years before they beat Sampdoria. Yeah. That Luca Vialli, thank God he's better from his cancer. I spoke to him the other day. He's Mancini, who our last guest, Sven-Goran Eriksson, was talking about Mancini in a way. I'll send you that little clip about Eriksson talking about Mancini.
Okay.
And your jaw will drop.
Unbelievable.
So what Cruyff did then was, while he was winning and making sure his post was secure, he was re-educating everybody. And the point you've brought me back to the point I was making, where Rexach, who'd been his winger, said, in the old days, when Cruyff and I took over at the Camp Nou, they wanted what you're talking about English football when we were growing up wanted, which is get it up there, long love, and if you're up there, get it in the box, get it irrespective of whether there's anybody there. And Rexach said, when we built up the wing and we didn't cross, because Cruyff said, if there's nobody there, start again. They were like, fucking get it in the middle. Camp Nou, that's now this temple of worship for Guardiola. I thought, was it fuck then? Was it fuck? It was like, fucking in Catalana, which I haven't got, fucking lump it in the middle, and Cruyff and Rexach, and they got booed.
Well, I was gonna say that. Was there a point when he took over where the crowd sort of turned? This is what I'm saying about the first thing is the crowd, because the players will feel that pressure. Trust me, I was one that didn't feel pressure, and at times getting the ball off of your own. There must have been a time where a number 4, the centre half's been told to split. And the fans must have been up in roar and give the ball away, because it ain't going to happen all the time. You're going to get the ball. There must have been times where there's up in the roar. It's like
there was times when neither the fans, nor the media, nor the president or the vice president understood it. Without going mad about this, Iniesta once against Paris Saint-Germain at Camp Nou in a Champions League game, he received the ball in the 4 position, and what he did was, he sort of received it, walked onto it with his back to the oncoming player, right up his back, took a half step this way and swiveled and got away from his man, pushed it in front of him and nicked it off the toe of the next man coming. And the move went from Valdez to Iniesta, and Iniesta ran 2 quarters of the pitch, set up somebody, and it was a goal. And it was beauty. It was like Fred Astaire. Honestly, it was like Gene Kelly. And I said to him several days later, I said, listen, that movement, that goal, if you'd given it away, when you tried that spin and that trick, 10 yards outside your own penalty box, you've lost a goal. That's a definite goal. I said, how do you process the risk? And he said, that game is all about accepting and managing risk. And is that something, did you have a feeling of accepting and managing risk
We talk about men with balls going into crunching tackles. Have you got the ball? No, that's balls. That there is the real McCoy, receiving it on your own 18 box, even in your box. To have that with 70,000 on you, on your back, if you give that away, what you go back there, if you give that away there's a goal. The next time you do that, is your player going to trust you? Is your manager going to trust you? That there, what the boys done is took serious balls. To answer your question, yeah, I have. I've put myself in that position. I've put myself in a more ballsy position. I will own this. The reason why I'll own it, we was bottom of the league, Gray. Yeah. I was playing for Fulham, bottom of the league. And players weren't doing that because they were scared. I was watching, because I was injured, I was watching from above and I was thinking, you need to forward it. You need to go and get that ball because clumping it up there, we're not winning. We're not doing nothing. I always had that though, Gray. I had that in me so much. Was there times on the pitch, if I was being honest, did I shy away from it? There was times when I was a little bit lower on confidence where I'd sort of go, I don't know, it's a bit tight. But I think that was my own brain sort of going, it's too tight. It's too tight for me to receive it. Someone else has got to be on. You can't be a one-man band.
That's judgment. That's judgment. That's match management.
Exactly right. So that doesn't come to bottle, I don't think. If you was to ask me the question, have you got... Great, I'd play in my own 6-yard box, mate. But then I'd have managers saying, Jim, but 6 of us can't. You can, that's your game. But 6 of us can't. So you have the argument now... Pep's okay with Man City. He's got all the money in the world to buy that. But has little Wigan got enough money and nous and know-how to go and buy like 15 ball players? It's very tough to bring that to the game of the UK. And they're not going to just listen to Jimmy Bullard, are they? Because Jimmy wants to play like that. But then my argument was, well, you brought me here, Paul. I want to play like that. And that was my argument. I believe, well, the goalkeeper is... He's getting paid a good wage. He's a professional football player. Why ain't he making an angle, Gaffer? I'd ask him so many questions. And in the end, I sort of had to wind my neck in, Gray, because I think I was sort of doing myself out of a job sort of thing. Do you get what I mean? It would become a point where the manager would have to be going, Jim, it's too much. You're scrutinising too much. Get in line. You're a player. You ain't the manager. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'd sort of have to wind my neck in a bit where I'd be putting too much pressure on the manager, I found myself doing that, especially towards the end of my career, when I started to become a bit more ballsy. I started to become a bit more of a man. I started believing in myself that bit more and started putting more pressures on players around me. No, get it, do it, and that's how it started.
In your career, you got, chopped a lot, and it's off and on the pitch because famously you play for Barry Fry. You might only come up to your kneecaps, but you'd have done your kneecaps. But you don't strike me as being somebody who lost his temper much. And I ask that because in that match, focusing on the 2 guys you idolise, especially Zidane, I don't know if you remember, at the end of the match, Raul's nicking around in the penalty box and a guy called Kike Alvarez tries to do it. And it's 2-1 to Real Madrid. There's 4 or 5 minutes left. Kike Alvarez tries to do Raul and Zidane's 20 metres away. And he sees it. And just like when he headbutted the Hamburg player for Juventus, or when he headbutted Materazzi in Berlin, I was there that day. He goes, I'm not fucking having that. And in his teams, there's a big brawl and he gets sent off and blah, blah, blah. And he was sent off a lot in his career. There was 3 red cards in that game that we're talking about. Did you ever have a problem with your temper? Did you ever, when somebody, I know that, let's not go into the pain of the Scott Park challenge because we've established that happens in football. People came looking for you quite a lot on and off the pitch. Was that something you were easy to skip away from, or your temper rose?
It's another good question, and it's something that I learned, again, myself, how to manage. I learned at a young age, I think just before I come into the pro game, that Jimmy Bullard, this is how I like to dissect that. I used to play, and I used to behave on the pitch. One, I had a strict dad. My dad used to always say to me, Jim, if I see you arguing with a referee, I'll almost disown you. I had a really strict dad. I almost fell out with my dad a lot of times. And it's like, I don't want to see you arguing with your players. I don't want to see you arguing with your manager. I don't want to see any aggravation. He was football. Everyone will protect you. The referee's there to do one job. My rapport with referees was unbelievable. I'm going off on one here. Just bear with me, right? So that being that was that. As a person, I found very quickly that Jimmy Bullard plays at his best being as happy as I possibly can. So I would play, it seemed like a no fear, happy. I'd almost be this character on the pitch. I'd portray this character that Nothing phases me. I'm a footballer playing in front of these. Let's entertain. If I'm 5-0 down, don't worry about it. The world's going to be all right. Jimmy's going to be all right. Football club. Let's really enjoy the situation and make fun out of it. And me being the Joker Jimmy that everyone knew me as and still knows me as, a little bit of a character. I call it an extension of myself. So an extension of myself, it's like when Ronaldo goes on the pitch and he acts as this statue and that's an extension of it. Is he like that every day? No, he ain't like that every day. It'd wear him out. But it's an extension. I was the Joker. So to answer your question, I never had an argument on the pitch. Very rare I had an argument on the pitch. You ask every referee, I used to call them by their first name. I had a really good... So I used to manage that. I used to enjoy I used to wind players up. I used to have a bit of... If it was too much, no problem. And in that, Gray, I think it's very important that players respect players. And players respect referees. I'm really of that ilk where my dad side comes out of me and I play with that smile and that real intense, bubbly character. But to dissect it, I learned that a very long time ago. That works for me, Gray. I'm not saying that works for everyone. I like to use Wayne Rooney as a scout. I believe Wayne Rooney learned at a young age that he plays his very best when he's angry. When he's ready to rip someone's head off, Wayne Rooney plays his best. I'm the other end of the scale.
Like that goal against Newcastle, where he's still shouting at the referee as he fucks the ball in from 70 yards.
He's angry. But I've played against Wayne. I've played with Wayne. I've trained with him. And when he's angry, he's phenomenal. If I played like that, I would be I'm too tense. I'm the other end. And there's always optimums. I always talk about optimums quite a lot. But you've got to find your own optimum. Where do you best play at? Like my boy is totally opposite to me. He's too jovial. He doesn't know the seriousness of the game. So I've got to bring him down. I've got to anger him a little bit. I've got to find a bit of bite in him to get him passionate to go in, I already had that in me. I had to bring myself down a little bit. It's weird the way I manage that.
No,
do you get where I'm going with that?
I claim this a little bit because I think you've evidenced again something I said early on, which I believe, which is that the more I listen to you, the more I watch you, you're a guy with a lot of self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is not something that's promoted in football. In other sports, it's essential. But in football for a long time, we had an army culture. We just do as you're told.
Yeah.
Self-knowledge wasn't promoted, and that goes for mental well-being, but it also goes you could look at yourself as a highly tuned machine and go if I'm playing angry, I'll do the wrong things. I won't in my peak. I think that's enormous to be able to know. And listen, I'm throwing praise at you because I mean it, and I'm not fucking about. We've got people who religiously watch this and they send in questions. So Kevin says, it's good. I hope it's true. Jimmy, I just want to say I've seen you a few times throwing shapes in the Bridge Bar in Beckenham. Some good moves you've got there, mate. My question is, which ground did you go to that had the aura where you knew you were in for a tough game, and who was the toughest opponent you faced? Go.
Okay, yeah, so Bridge Bar, yeah, that's my local. Me and my mates go there for a drink. And yeah, I do chuck some serious moves. So he's right on that one. I love getting on the floor. But to answer I've got a bit. To answer the question, it was Anfield. Going to Liverpool was it's phenomenal. When I first heard Never Walk Alone, that was phenomenal. And then they had the likes of Alonso, Gerrard. Who was up top? I think Torres was up top at that time. It's just ridiculous teams, that. And also another ground that was phenomenal was Leeds. Leeds away. When I was playing for Wigan, they was in a championship. We had a lot of ding dong with Leeds, being only across the road, really. Leeds and Wigan not being far apart, and going to Ellen Road. That was one that I can't wait to see them in the Premier League, hopefully, if they get there, because I believe they deserve to get that. It was just phenomenal. But then you had the likes, the big grounds. I used to love Everton. How on top of you they was. Even driving into the likes of Everton, down the little roads, them sort of grounds. And then you get to the Mecca grounds like Newcastle, what I call the big industrial grounds, Old Trafford, obviously. Playing against Giggs and players like that, that was but there was some phenomenal ground. I was so lucky to play. My mum always said to me, Jim, when you're going into these grounds, when doing what you're doing, it'll be quickly forgotten. So make sure you soak it up. Make sure you enjoy everything, take in the whole experience, because when you're 35, this won't be here for you. And that was one thing that I really, really absorbed.
It's one of the reasons that we're on here, and there's 2 sections to go before we let you back to the garden. And they one of them links really specifically into that, because I'll come back to it. But everything you absorbed and what you felt about the importance of soaking it up, that comes out of you. It radiates, and it radiates still to this day, and I'll tell you why. But just a conversation. So you know what you share with Iker Casillas and what you said there, because Iker's mum was a really good guide in his career, and he's a World Cup winning captain in Champions League, but she couldn't watch his games. And during Spain's run to the tournament wins they had, she fainted with the pressure at one stage, and she was too nervous to watch him. She couldn't watch him.
That's my mum.
There you go. That's the link. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Because my mum, Wigan, we reached the Carling Cup final against Man United. My mum has never watched me live. She can't even put on the teletext, back in the day, teletext, that's how long ago it was. She can't even put on TV. She was like, Jim, she'd come to the final, I dragged 40 coach load, right? She'd watch me warm up and she'd walk straight outside and having a fag. She couldn't watch. She could not watch. She gets so nervous. She watched me for another game, Wigan, for 2 years. She'd come back later, right? And I'll tell you a little story. This was fun. And Chelsea turned up at the JGB Stadium. And she see Chelsea get off the coach, and she see Big Didier Drogba get off. And she said, is he playing against my little Jimmy? He's an absolute mountain of a man. And I was like, yes, yeah, Mum. Like, he's one of the. No, he's gonna crush you. You make sure you're strong and all that. She gave me a right pep talk. That was funny. Like.
But you've touched on something there that really struck me. I wrote it in one of the books that Neil and Martin published, but I mean it, and it's the truth. And there's no name dropping here. I was TV producer for Spain in the World Cup, and if you remember their first game, they lose to Switzerland, the World Cup that they win in 2010. They lose 1-0 to Switzerland. It's a shit goal. They don't have the date. And in the tunnel afterwards, I'm down literally in the players' tunnel, where TV people and journalists don't usually get. I mean, it's the most common a day thing for you, but to me, it's kind of like a holy sanctum, because you see things close up. And footballers often look smaller close up. But the Swiss, Iniesta had been taken off injured, and he was being helped to hobble out. And Little Silva was one of the interview guys. The Swiss made them look like Lilliputians. Iniesta and Silva. And I, in that moment, irrespective of all the great football I'd seen in the years before, I was like, these guys cannot beat those guys. It can't happen. And yet they do. That's the phenomenal beauty of confidence, psychology, touch, intelligence. That's, to me, what makes football just...
you're exactly right. I'd like to touch on as well. We spoke about styles. Now, I know we spoke about this quite a lot, haven't we? But I honestly don't believe, and Pep talks about this, there isn't one right way. I honestly believe if you get like 15 giants and you want to play in the final third and you all believe in that and you work to it, I think you could be dangerous. Do you get what I mean? I don't think there is one style. If you've got 16 absolute athletes that are ready to run through brick walls and you're all 6'4" and you all sort of play, you know, we've seen it when you need to score a goal in the last 5 minutes and that ball's getting shelled forward. Do you imagine playing that from the off? And you've got 3 units up top and you all believed in that. You could be dangerous. Like, I'm not sure a lot of teams can deal with that. So I don't believe there's one way. That's my way. That's the way I love. But I'm telling you that. Look at Sam Allardyce, what he done with Bolton. Bolton back in the day were a bunch of absolute beasts. And they would go forward with a purpose, all believed in Sam. They would mix it up a little bit because they had the Jorkai heads, but when they went forward, man, did they believe in it, and they were dangerous. I played against some real direct teams where you think, you're on for an hiding here, because they all believe in it. And when you've got that, Craig, when you've got a team that all believe in what the manager's telling you, and you actually believe, if you're going to go, you could seriously hurt teams. Do you get what I mean? Because the percentages are taken out of your favour, because you ain't going to give it away in your third. And now you all playing in that third. Do you get what I mean? So it can be dangerous. Both ways can be dangerous.
I grew up watching this lot, Aberdeen, and we in the 60s and 70s, we'd occasionally beat the big sides, or we might get to a cup final, occasionally we'd win. And then Alec Ferguson comes along and he teaches us what winning's about. And he shows us how it happens as fans, players, and the players educated me to want success and to believe that I could adapt. I did what you did with Zidane and Riquelme. I was like, if they can do that on the pitch, I can do that in life. And then we stopped winning. And we haven't won a lot for a long time. But I still, even in that model you've proposed, which I totally agree with, and I've heard Guardiola say time and again, I wouldn't want to play Jack Charlton football. I wouldn't want to play the long ball merchants where it's your percentages. Because if I had to sit and watch it, then if your team wins a couple, it feels good. If you get a trophy, it feels phenomenal. But when that declines, when it goes wrong, you're still watching ugliness. You're still watching
that's
where the ball's not important. And that's why I'll accept it. If somebody said to me, you can have 6 months in a trophy, I'll sign.
Yeah.
But at the end of the 6 months, scrap it and begin again.
I'm like you, but that's our love, isn't it? But there's other people's love that want to see crash bang wallop. That is life, though. That's why we love the game, right? Everyone's so different, and they can love what they love, and that's our love. We love that technical, that closeness, pop, 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 pop. We love that. But there's others on the terraces that want to see get up there. Fair enough. But when I say long ball, there's more tactics. I'm just trying to keep in a nutshell here. It ain't just about crashing it up. It's about winning free kicks. It's about being cute. I just don't want to say it's that raw. There's a lot more to it. There's a whole tactic behind long ball, as much tactic as Pep's side. Do you know what I mean? Well,
if Ederson releases one of his magnificent passes because Stones and Co have been sucking the other team in a little bit and playing around there, and instead of passing to Ederson's long ball picks a runner, or if a long ball Ederson takes a corner and he's like, I want to fuck this 60 yards because they're not ready, that's good enough. That's not ugly. That's taking advantage of the moment. And I think the blend is exciting, and I think the blend is coming in England because of years of new coaches, new players, but also years of Spanish football on TV. When your country won 2 junior World Cups in the space of about 18 months, under 17 and under 19 level, I watched footballers who were doing, it was like watching Junior La Liga from 2005. And when that country's blends with what they've been taught about continental football at its best, I expect to see England winning a tournament in my lifetime. I do.
We were behind. We learned from the continent. I believe we learned through Champions League, Ray. I really believe England, English teams had enough of a hiding. There's a lot of people watching Champions League and we've gone, hang on a minute, they're far superior than us. They're putting a lot more odds in their favour. And as commentators, we've just gone, they're too good. And the whole process has changed over the last 10 years, getting ironed out. And even if we win, Gray, it was more of a point, did we really deserve that? They've absolutely ironed us out here. On a percentage, if Chelsea played Barcelona over 10 matches, Barcelona win 8-2 or something. It'd be ridiculous. Back in the day, I believe that gap's getting closer. And I believe with the coaches coming over, slowly, it's getting drip-fed into us. Look at what Gareth Southgate's doing with the England team now. But as I say, I watch so many commentators talk about, you must go forward at pace. No. I watch so much football on the continent. Barcelona, I could get you clips. Barcelona played more sideways and backwards more than anyone. They own possession more than anyone. And I know it's about going forward, but it's about going forward at the right times, not at the wrong times, picking your passes. And I'm fed up, right? I'm going to have a little rant here. I'm fed up of English commentators going, you must play on the front foot and go forward. I'm a big believer in own the process first. Own the football. Because if you're going forward every time and you expect to score every time you get it, forward, you ain't going forward with quality, are you? You're going forward down rat holes that don't exist. Them coming over, the Klopps, the Pep. There's one manager I'd love to see, Simeone. We've got no chance because he's an absolute legend. If we see Simeone over here, how good is he for the Premier League, right? How good would he be for the Premier if we ever see him over? I know I've gone off on one again.
He's a twoozer. What you have to believe is that Simeone is the guy who's brilliant man-to-man, and his right-hand man, the ex-goalkeeper, who was pin thin as a player, got 23 stone, and now is looking pretty respectable again. Mono Burgos. He's the tactical guy on the training pitch. You put them together. Mono Burgos can speak English. Simeone's been trying to learn English and can't. So if he goes to England You're talking in a hypothetical situation. In a hypothetical situation, he'd educate people. He's 20 times the organiser that Mourinho ever was, and 20 times the football man that Mourinho ever was. And he's a legend. He's an icon for fans to gather. It could be brilliant. Do I ever see it happening because he can't speak English? I probably don't, Jim. But if you look at probably the worst Atleti form since he took over, is still the form that's knocked the reigning European champions out in whatever fashion. And I think they wouldn't have been out if they had the right goalkeeper in goal. In my opinion, growing up, I've been taught this. I couldn't see it, but we weren't taught to be intelligent about football. I was born in the 60s. You weren't. You were born, 70s? I don't know. Nobody was talking about football intelligence and being analytical.
You're spot on there, right? And I know it's going to sound harsh, man. I played professional football from the age of 19, 20 to the age of 34. I can honestly, and I know I'm going to undermine a lot of managers here, and it's going to sound quite rude. I honestly, Roy Hodgson was one manager that pricked my ears, and he was the first manager. All my career, what I'm trying to get at, Craig, I wanted more from managers. I felt I wanted more, and I'd say that in front of them if they were there. Tactically, I didn't get enough from all my managers. Roy Hodgson was the first one to really open my mind, and I learned so much from him, especially now looking back. All my managers before that and after, were they good managers? I'm not saying they were bad managers, Gray. I'm just saying I want more. They was more worried about results, Gray. They was more worried about winning. They was more worried about getting in that final third and just causing aggro. I was more worried about the game. Do you get what I mean? The process of me learning as a football player. There was times, I told you before, Gray, I'd have arguments with Paul Gill. If you was to ask Paul Gill now, who's the hardest man? Jimmy is a nightmare. But I was the first on his team sheet, Gray. Ask him. If you ever see him, who's the first on your team sheet? Who's the best player you've ever had? I know he'd say Jimmy Bullard. And I know I'm saying Big Eddie because I used to drive him mad. I wanted to say, I need more. Without that push, I don't believe we would have exceeded what we done. I don't believe we would have done what we done.
I still think that the higher level you played that, with the better coaches, the better footballer you'd have been. You and I met on the 25th of January 2012 at a Classical, which was a cup semi-final, where Barca took a lead from Madrid back, and it ended up 2-2. Blitzkrieg of a game. I'd taken Darren Fletcher out because he was recuperating from his his operations or whatever. We ended up singing "Islands in the Stream" across the bar at the Hotel Princess Sophia.
He had a few that polished.
And that's how I introduced Julian Ball Rodriguez, because we're in the last two sections of this interview, Jimmy, because Julian says, how difficult was it to adapt from playing at Gravesend to playing at West Ham? But I'm thinking about the journey from the chip shop and Gravesend to a luxury hotel in Barcelona, watching two beautiful teams play magical cup football 2-2. Of all the players we've talked about, including the Real Madrid and Barcelona legends that you adore watching, you never use the name Paulo Di Canio in your list of footballers that to rank with Zidane or with Riquelme. And maybe Paulo didn't win all the trophies they did, but people will forget that you signed on the same day as Paulo did for West Ham. And I watched Paulo in an interview recently. I don't know if you've seen it, because I know how clued up you are on things that you can pick up on the internet and YouTube. Paulo immediately said he remembered you and liked you, and he immediately said, brilliant set piece player, set piece taker, brilliant free kick taker. But he didn't have a dig, but you know what Paulo's like. He said, could have achieved a lot more, really good footballer. Does that mean, or is that typical of the Paulo that you knew, and having started at Gravesend or having been at Gravesend before coming to West Ham? Try and describe that, the man that you found there, less so for his eccentricities, but for the brand of footballer that he was.
So looking back, for me coming from Gravesend and Northfleet to West Ham, there's such a big gap there from non-league to Premier League. You've got to imagine, Gray, I was a West Ham fan as well, so it's such a surreal moment, me going almost claret and blue still on my walls to the boyhood club I love from non-league. There's so much jump there and scale, it's Roy the Rovers stuff. You don't like that. That's That's ridiculous, right? That does not happen. That you've got more chance, I would say, of near enough winning the lottery. Like, how does that happen? How does a boy from Gray's Inn Northfleet do that? Not only does that happen, I'll go on trial. Roger Cross was third in line, by the way. He turned up to a Gray's Inn Northfleet game. By the way, I wasn't playing that well at Gray's Inn. I hit a 3-4 week period where I was scoring goals, and Roger Cross was there, a West Ham scout, and he come up to me. And we had a lot of characters there. And he come up to me and goes, "Son, do you want to try at West Ham?" I thought he was one of the boys put him up for it. I thought, come on, mate, behave. Like, who's put you up this? My mate Mitchell Crawley's a lunatic. I thought, he's up to Mitch. I said, "No, I'm not having that." He went, "Jim, I'm not winding you up. You've got to trial at West Ham." I still didn't believe it. I was, "Nah, not having it." So I turned up at Chadwell Heath Monday morning, 10 o'clock. Who's there? Paolo Di Canio's there. I didn't know Paolo. I'm a West Ham fan. He's there. He's there the first day. I'm there. Frank Lampard, Rio, they're all there. I'm on trial. I remember the first day Harry wanted to see what I had. He put me one-on-one with Frank Lampard. One-on-one, Gray, on a quadmire. I'm a 19-year-old boy in a 15-year-old's body. I'm thinking, one-on-one with Frank? Are you joking? Frank was a beast. He's absolutely tore me a new one. I've kept me own. Paolo's up next. I'm one-on-one with Paolo. Like, this is like, I'm going... I've got my dad watching in the car park, because back then, West Ham allowed punters to come in and watch training. My dad's there. I'm thinking, this is fucking mental. Like, how the fuck am I here? Like, I don't understand this process. Like, I'm just decorating on the Friday, Gray. I'm decorating on the Friday, and now I'm at my club. Today, I still don't realise what that was a total head fuck. So for me to answer any football questions in that is not possible. It's a total head fuck, right? So then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, Harry gives me a 2-year contract. A 3-year pro contract. And this was brilliant. This is how good Harry was. I was in the canteen. He goes, "You all right with your contract? 750 quid a week, sweet with that?" I couldn't say yes or no, could I? I would have took £7.50. And he was like, "Sweet, son, if you're good enough, you'll get in my first team." The first thing he said to me, "You need to get in the gym. You need to build up." Gray, I'm telling you, I lifted more weights than Jeff Capes. I couldn't put on muscle mass. I couldn't put on muscle mass. My body was I had too much energy. It wouldn't put on. I got more defined, but Harry's just seeing this scrawny little kid. And the Premier League was more industrious. It needed stronger men. I get that. But then all of a sudden come this player, Paolo Di Canio. He signed the same day as me, as well as, remember Mark Vivian Foe, God bless him, who we lost.
Yeah, God bless his soul, yeah.
So I signed the same day as him, along with Gavin Holligan, who come along with Kingstonian, another non-league player. So it's me and him signed, Paolo. From that day, I sat next to Paolo for 3 years in the change room. Graham, what I learned from that man was not only football, was life around football. Now, the way you conduct yourself, the way you dress, the way you your manners around football. And people know Paolo as this loose cannon, like this absolute genius of a lunatic. Let me tell you something about that man. He thought so much about everything, every move he done, he thought about. He brought his own staff with him to West Ham to take the warm-up. You know, he see gaps in the market there. He see gaps in football. No, this ain't good enough, you know. And Harry sort of went with it. Okay, what you got? He sort of like, we had fish and chips on a Friday, mate. We was having fish and chips as a pre-match meal. Paolo, no. He changed everything about that club. He even changed, this is ridiculous. Do you remember West Ham, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles?
Yeah.
It's a big feature, like massive song, back to when my dad was a kid. Paolo changed the song and he brought out Paolo Di Canio. he come out to his own song. I'm not like this. It's unbelievable. But my dad, basically, I've got so much, it would almost be a different podcast, Craig. I've got so much about Di Canio, but there was one episode where I said, Dad, he sort of like was in the Frank McAvenny era, you know, Cotty, all back then. And I said, Dad, come and watch this fella.
Alan Devonshire.
And all that.
What a player.
Almost Bobby Moore as a kid growing up, real back in the day. And I went, Dad, watch this, come and watch this bloke, right? Unbelievable. And he went, no. And I said, Dad, Just come watch him. I dragged him to Upton Park one game. It was a night game under the floodlights. It was when Paolo scored 2 goals. And he cut on the inside. Me and my dad were right behind it. He cut inside. He nutmegged the second midfielder. He gave a lollipop with his left peg. I remember it. You know when you can see things clear as a... And he come inside. He bent this ball, right, honestly, into the far corner. My dad stood up and just gave him the biggest standing ovation for 20... He was there 25 minutes, my dad, and he went, that's enough. Walked out and he said, that bloke. And he run around with his shirt. You know how he used to just go mad? And he run around with the shirt on his head, above his head. And my dad said, that's the best I've ever seen at West Ham. They're like phenomenal ball play. There's little things he done in that game. 25 minutes, Gray, he was there. My dad, I've seen enough. The man was magnificent.
I'm so glad you described it that way, Tim, because there's no arguing that Di Canio can be rated in terms of ultimate achievement with Zola and Schmeichel and Bergkamp, because for one reason or another, he didn't achieve as much as them. But in terms of across my life, the guys with the most extraordinary genius skill that I've seen, he's in that mix at least.
Yeah.
Because he was capable of outstanding technique, but mad maverick invention, or at least it looked like that. Maybe some of it's planned, but he saw pictures and was able to paint those pictures that nobody else around him at that time was seeing.
Ridiculous. He done stuff in training. Great. He had no pace whatsoever. He's probably the slowest player with the biggest amount of ability I've ever seen. He used to have, the chop. Like, he used to chop players. Oh, wow. Like, you'd go for it. I know it was coming. I know you're going to chop this. But I've still got to block it. For some reason, you block it and he'd just go, chop. Chop. He chopped so many players. It was phenomenal. But there's one thing I noticed about Paolo. He definitely preferred to be a big fish in a small pond. He was one of them. That was a big exaggeration of a big fish in a small pond. If Paolo wasn't number one, if Paolo wasn't at the armband, if Paolo didn't wear the 10, if Paolo wasn't held as a king, you ain't got the same Paolo with that. And Harry knew that. That's part of management as well. You talk about tactics all you want. We all talk about player management. Harry played him to perfection. There was time we had another nutcase, like John Moncur at West Ham, right?
Wait, stop throwing the ball there, because John comes up. We had the podcast with Scott Minto, who was at West Ham with you, and he talked about Moncur. And I've heard you talk about John before. And if you remember the guy who got on a team sheet a lot for West Ham, but I don't think that anybody outside the hardcore West Ham fan base have any idea about what kind of character he was.
Player, but hell of a footballer. He was a slight boy and learnt away, and he was a great player. Not in Paolo's league, granted, but a great player for West Ham. But an absolute nutcase. The biggest nutcase I've ever met in football. Like, he done things, like him and Paolo, this is what I was going to kill. Harry had to play that very carefully. You imagine this as a team. Razor Ruddock, John Moncur, Paul Kitson, who was a lunatic, Steve Lomas, who was not right, Trevor Sinclair. Then he brings Paolo Di Canio. Are you sure? Like, Ian Wright? Have you got enough big characters in that team? Like, you can't... How do you manage all that lot? Like, that's phenomenal. Like, and then you bring over Davor Suker after he scored the chip. So every time he's training for West Ham, he thinks he can score a chip every 2 minutes. Used to drive Harry mad.
It's chips with everything, isn't it? At the canteen, chips with everything.
Honestly, he put chips upon chips. It was like ridiculous. And then his mate, who went in for presidency for Croatia, who's the big centre half. They was...
Stimac.
But what I was going to get on, Harry managing John Moncur and Paolo, he had to put them in the same team all the time. Because if you give a free kick to Paolo, John would go off on one. If you give a free kick to John, Paolo would go off on one. It's absolute. Harry talks about it quite a lot, so he had to really manage these characters, which was phenomenal. But Paolo, great once. It was just phenomenal to be around. I learned so much.
Now, before we let you back to the chrysanthemums and the garden and the slabs, I need to draw you on something where again I'm going to praise you, because when I was watching Soccer AM when you were still playing, Soccer AM was really, really funny. And then I went to a phase where I couldn't watch it as much, and it changed, and it went to different hosts. And the Soccer AM that I watch right now, I'd have to say that, maybe there's a lack of some of the characters that were there, but the sections with you and Tubes or Peter, if you want to call, and Fenners, when any of you've got a football at your feet, when it's the drills around professional clubs, when it's out the back with the fans, one, you've reinvented it, the three of you, in a way that I think is hugely enjoyable, and I can't miss. And secondly, it fuck me if you're not a better, more technical player now, even than you were then. When I see you doing the drills or filling the top bin in the goals and the things you're still doing with the ball, it absolutely buzzes with energy and love of the game. And I think you have reinvented Soccer AM in a way that it invigorates me. When I watch you all with the ball, and I'm talking about what you all do with the ball, particularly, and I said this to you, and Tubes, for an amateur player, I think he's got enormous touch on the ball. Yeah. He's a player. Try and describe the process of what you three, not the sketches, not the guests, not the music, but when the three of you are on the ball or out at professional, what is the aim of what you're trying to do and how much are you enjoying it?
I was always close to Soccer AM anyway. They used to show a lot of my clips and this and that. So I've had a bit of a connection. I've been doing the drill now. First of all, we owe so much applause to Fenners. Fenners is the main driver of the show. You've been around TV, Gray. What I think's good, it isn't necessarily going to come out on TV good. Do you get what I mean? So TV is it's a whole different beast. So that's Fenners' game. What I know is football. Fenners has sort of got them together and gone, he's had the image really and gone, hang on, how can I make this work? How can Jimmy be at his best? Now, me being a presenter that I am now, isn't me reading off the auto cue, Gray. I'm not going to be one of them reading off the auto cue like you see on Sky Sports. That isn't me. So he's got me with a moving 3 or 4 cameras around me with a football, put me in a scenario that I'm comfortable with, away I go. And he describes it, we get magic. That's when we get magic. We don't know when we're going to get magic, but that's... So basically, me and Tubes go out to do the drills. I think it's my 6th year doing the drill. The first ever drill we done, Fenners wasn't sure how it was going to look, how it was going to pan out, but we asked Dean Saunders and Mark Crosley. We went up to, I believe it was Chesterfield. We went up to Chesterfield, got on a part. Dean Saunders got the goals out, put the mannequins, and that was our first drill. And from there, like everything, it sort of branched out. It found its own way. I found my own way. We've got our own little catchphrases. Before we know it, we call it bulldogging it up. We make an extension of ourselves. He says, bulldog it up more, Jim. It's too serious. I want it serious, but I want the kids to react to it. It takes time. It takes a bit of nurturing. It changes every year. Now we're going around these phenomenal clubs. We've been with Rakitic and Rivaldo and all over the world, Celtic, Rangers, at these huge clubs, been at their training grounds to show what we can give. And you saying about what I've got, I'm always asking questions. When's too old, Gray? If you're still doing it and you still look like you can maneuver, I'm 41, but I still feel like I can play in tight areas. The hard thing is you've got such a wide audience there. Where do you stop? Do you get what I mean? And Fenners would go, just keep it as general as we can, Jim. So that's what we try and do. Keep it as general. Sometimes you'll see me going in nitty gritty and Fenners will go more. That'll do. And that's management. He'll put the reins on it or he'll let me go. But another thing that I've learned is to get it across, there's a camera there. At first, Gray, I was turning my back on camera. They couldn't hear me. I didn't know. Like, I'm a footballer. And over time, become really friendly with this camera. I've become myself. I sort of started like stiffening up a little bit and like talking a bit different. And in the end, I thought, fuck this. It can only work if I'm Jimmy. Over time, Fenners taught me how to like position my body. Basically, there's an audience there, present for them. I'm still learning now, Gray. I'm still learning. Every time I go on that show, it's such a well-oiled machine, that show. Yap Stam come on the other week and he wrote an amazing piece on his social media. Said, I couldn't believe how well-oiled the machine Soccer AM was, the professionalism, the quality and the laughs as well. And it's a right big mixture we got in. And that's down to, I'm going to tell you now, not me, Tubes, Fenners and the producer Darius and all the boys in there. I'm very much of a free spirit. They let me do what I want to do. Have I learned a lot? Yes, but they've taught me so much because TV wasn't my game.
You love football so much and you've got such a brain, which is part of why we agreed to do this, because I think it's commonly known that you're really quick-witted, and all the cheeky chappy stuff that doesn't even cover it, because you're sharp mentally, you're funny verbally, and your character oozes out. And as far as I'm concerned, the more people like that in football there are, the better, because we see a lot of automatons and robots. So that's fine, right? You're naturally like that, but we both know that you're a proper thinker about football and you've got strong ideas. Do you think you'll ever find the urge so strong that you go back and reapply that to football in some form or other? I'm talking about necessarily I've got to be a manager or a coach, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or do you think that you've found satisfaction in the way that the camera loves you sufficiently that you don't need to go back to the game?
I ask this question to myself all the time, right? First of all, people don't realise how much they think I'm this joker, they think I'm this character, a bit of a wild character. Trust me, I don't believe I would have achieved what I achieved if I wasn't a deep thinker of it. So that's answered that. Let's put that away. The second piece, I went on that show, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, The Jungle. Now, that was the first show I ever went on after football, and I believe that, I don't think, if I didn't do that show, I don't believe I'd have gone into TV as much as I have done. So, has that given me a different path? Yes. Has that sort of showed the extension of Jimmy Bullard, the Joker? Yes. Has that scared off a lot of chairmen? I believe a manager's in me. I've got too much. I honestly believe it. But the more I go down this path, the more I'm scared of, I need a strong chairman to back me, because at the minute, I'm this Joker character that wild. I'm a little bit wild. I know that. I'm not silly. People portray me as that. I know I'm a bit different. I think different outside the box. But I think it takes a strong manager to give Jimmy Bullard a manager job. Now, I don't care whether it's non-league or professional. I've done a non-league stint. I don't really want to go into non-league because it wasn't enough for me. I can only train twice a week. If I ever go into management, and I believe I can only ever manage, I think my thoughts on football are too strong to be an assistant. I couldn't, or I'd have to be under a manager that believes my way. Otherwise, I'd be arguing. I'd be tug-of-warring with him that an assistant can't do. He needs to be glued to his manager. So, in a way, I need to be under a manager that really has my beliefs, and vice versa. Or a strong chairman's coming back at Jimmy Bullard. Great, the question's out there to be asked. Am I going to be doing TV soccer around forever? No. Do I believe I can manage? Yes. To which level? I don't know. You know, there's 100 questions got to be asked there. But the more I do it, the more I think, and I hope I'm wrong, that I'm sort of knocking myself out of a management's job. Do you get what I mean by that? I'm sort of going down a different route. If I ever had the moment to sit down in front of a board and chairman, I could sway their opinion if they give me that opportunity.
There's three things I think to summarise this in. Number one, we've seen, just like glimpses on the drill, that you can coach. Two, it's patent that when you want to, you can interact and read people. You can man manage, and I think three, I'd pay to watch the brand of football you would ask your team to play, and then after that, there's a million things. The wind in your face when you're a coach or a manager at any level is gigantic, and you need the right people, you need the right resources, you need a little bit of luck, blah blah blah. But it would sadden me if at some stage we don't see you applying what you believe to a football club at some level. And just like I said about you as a player, I think the higher level at which you coach, there's some people who are born to say, right, I can take this raw material and work it all the way up. And there are some people where it's better to skip the steps and say, right, we're talking the same language already, let's get down to it and I'll make you better. And it looks to me that that's where you should be. So I will close this by saying, Jimmy, this has been a privilege that I expected it to be, because I admire you as much for your wit. But I knew that we shared a love of football that would come out in this podcast. So I'm indebted to you for taking so much time and listening with patience to my questions. And our listeners will have loved having Jimmy Bullard on the Big Interview. So, Jim, thank you.
Thank you, God. No, I've loved it so much.